welcome Exiles to another update on the Boneshatter Jug. I wanted to get this out earlier than the end of the day because I made some important changes that I think are pretty important, make the build end up feeling quite a bit better, and also I don't want it to be the same thing where I wait till it's really late at night and then I do a bad job making the video and I go to bed late and I don't sleep well, stuff like that I want to try to avoid. So I want to put this video out earlier, and I also want you guys to have the information earlier because it helps the build out a lot. The primary change that has made the build end up feeling quite a bit better, and I gotta give credit to, if you know the real Neato, he is a guy who's made a few videos on YouTube with some really cool mechanics. He understands the game quite well. This was a suggestion he gave to me during stream. I was kind of like, I don't know if it's worth it. I'll try it after stream, and I ended up trying it, and I like it a lot. And that is switching to blood magic. This is, like, the mana was fine with a mana leech jewel and a eternal mana flask with enduring mod, but there'd be random scenarios where I'd forget to click the flask, and scenarios where I'd run into Baron and his mana squares would suck all my mana. There were some annoying things that would happen, and this just cut down on the annoyance. It makes the build easier, more smooth to play, and I like it. So what it does is we're trading off vitality and precision. We're losing vitality and precision, but the upside is we have absolutely no mana problems. We have more, we have a higher life pool because we get these nice life nodes right here, and we get to have a little bit higher effect, pride. Eventually, we can potentially get in blood and sand to the build as well, but that requires an enlighten or some heavy investment into some reduced mana reserve. So I'm not sure that's something we're gonna have in the near future at all, considering how expensive enlightens will be. I'm not really gonna plan on it being in the build because I'm not gonna put that level of budget into it. That just seems too expensive to me. But in the future, if you really wanted to min-max it, you could get blood and sand into the build as well. So what we ended up changing around is we have a arrogance support with pride, so that way our pride can get some aura effect with it, to get some nice extra damage in there. And then we just have Petrified Blood and Defiance Banner just in their own little links, and they still reserve about 45% of our life. So as you can see, for Blood and Sand we need an extra 10% reservation, which would mean we'd have to reduce from 55% down to like 49% reservation, thus requiring an Enlighten, so that's why I mentioned it. Another important change we made is I started using Immortal Call. We have, like, insane uptime on endurance charges. The second we hit a pack, we're gaining back 7 endurance charges, and because of that, I like using Immortal Call in maps because it's a ton of mitigation. It's close to like 85% less fizz damage taken, another 35% elemental damage taken is like the rough math of what it comes out to. It lasts for about 3 seconds. We maybe could eventually link this to increased duration, maybe if we drop the arrogant support over here, maybe it'd be worth it, but I've decided it feels really nice, really tanky, because what would happen with Molten Shell is I would activate Molten Shell, and then I would start swinging with my Boneshatter, and I would just chip away and kill the Molten Shell, and it wouldn't last very long, whereas the Immortal Call reduces the damage we take from our Boneshatter, and it lasts the entire duration. It feels pretty good, and the second we hit a pack of monsters, we get all those endurance charges back. The second we start just hitting a unique monster, we're going to start generating those endurance charges back, and by the time we have during the duration of the Immortal Call, we'll get all of our endurance charges back, so it's not really like we have some vulnerability. The main vulnerability is just because I have still not fully kitted out gear-wise, and I'm not capped for res without endurance charges. When I have endurance charges up, I'm basically capped for res, so there's a little bit of danger there. When I proc Immortal Call, I'll be low res, and it makes my LA weakness iffy, but that's the main weakness, and that's something we're going to fix later on by actually continuing to upgrade our rares. Our rares aren't still like perfect or anything, they're just kind of okay. You'll see I'm highlighting over the 2 rares I switched into, and they're just kind of, they're whatever. Outside of that, we have a Death's Oath now. This was the next kind of budget upgrade. I like this more than Belly of the Beast and Ambush Charge, and it's still cheaper yet than Iron Fortress. Eventually, I want to go to Iron Fortress, but that requires going to a Colonnade map and doing the Prophecy, so it's a little bit more expensive. So the in-between step is Death's Oath. I like this chest piece because it has 2k plus armor, which is huge. You can see on our defenses, we're already at 23k armor. A big portion of that was Death's Oath. Without Death's Oath, you see we go all the way down to 4k. So we're getting a massive amount of fizz reduction from just our Death's Oath. Another thing I like about it is it gives attack speed, gives attributes, gives life, gives leech. It's got a ton of stuff going for it. It has one downside. We take 450 chaos damage per second. We out-sustain this pretty well with our Chaos Res, which is negative 25. It ends up being closer to like 600 damage we're taking per second, and we still out-sustain it like it's no big deal. Eventually, when we grab the next upgrade to the chest, the Iron Fortress, the degen we were missing out on, we're going to feel like we have some insane sustain, and even with the degen, we feel like we have some pretty good sustain. So that's the chest piece we're using. We also picked up a Lori's Lantern. This is a super cheap 1C item. And I like it a lot because it gives some all res, gives some chaos res, makes enemies damage to us unlucky, which is a nice defensive mechanic, and it helps out the light radius, which makes mapping in dark maps not feel so bad. And since we're going to a lot of variety in maps, we're really trying to complete the atlas, we're going to have to run a lot of dark maps. The light radius makes it not look so painful to look at, if you know what I mean. And so that's nice. Eventually we'll upgrade this. This is just an in-between step, but it's 1C. It gets some res, it gives you movement speed. It's just a nice little ring. Up to other changes we made, I decided Vengeance really wasn't providing much. Vengeance, the single target from it was really not much at all. It was quite less than the Boneshatter, and I like the utility of some other skills. So some utility things we switched in is we have Ancestral Warchief with Ancestral Protector and multiple totems. This allows us to put down both Ancestral Protector and Ancestral Warchief and get the value of both of those totems, the attack speed multiplier and the damage multiplier, simply by putting one down and then the other down. We will have one of each and thus both benefits. I also added in Maim to these totems so we can get the enemies take increased fizz from Maim mod as well. After that, another setup I like now is Ancestral Warcry. I think I talked about this yesterday, but that's just on our left click. But the actual thing we have is a Castman damage taken level 1 mixed in with a Warlord's Mark and a Purifying Flame. What I like about this is it keeps putting down Purifying Flames. That's 6% life regen per second, and you times that times 5600 HP. That's almost 350 to 400 life regen per second if I'm doing my math correctly. And that's a great little addition we can do with our Castman damage taken. And we also have Warlord's Mark. This basically curses some random rare enemies occasionally, and that means while we're mapping, we'll slap a rare enemy, we'll stun him, and we'll get 20 rage. You'll see in the map showcase I'm going to do that we'll go all the way up to 50 rage throughout mapping because we'll randomly get 20 rage here, 20 rage there, just because of Warlord's Mark. It feels good, makes us run around faster, makes us attack faster. It's just to feel good, so I like this. Maybe for single target, Assassin's Mark would be the play, or potentially even Poacher's Mark. I haven't tested around other options, but this feels the best for mapping, and I like it a lot. On to other changes, I added in Blood Rage. This I should always have in the build. I don't know why, I always forget Blood Rage in melee builds, but it's a ton of attack speed. It gives us Frenzy Charge while mapping. It's just something we should be using at all times. It feels great, and the degen we sustain perfectly fine. There's no issue with it whatsoever. So that goes over the gem changes and the gear changes. Let's get into Flask Changes. Since we don't have mana issues anymore, we can get rid of the mana flask and start adding in other flasks we like. So I have a quartz flask. I'm going to start using these enkindling orbs for the trigger things, just so we don't have to click flasks. I like things like this where we have use when we become chilled, and I have the chill removal on it. So basically I started just chucking enkindling orbs at my flasks randomly, and if I hit a useful one like use when become chilled, I'd add in an affix. Obviously for this one that has shock removal, I would rather have the mod that is use when we become shocked, but we'll find it eventually. I do like the aquamarine flask here because we don't have freeze removal yet, or freeze immunity yet. We will when we get Cyclopean Coil, but for now, whenever we get chilled, that'll be a modifier we have on us when we get frozen. And aquamarine makes it so we aren't frozen completely, so if we click a freeze box, we can still move, we can still pop the box, and we're fine. That's the reason for having an aquamarine flask. We also have a diamond flask. This is just for some extra crit, and it has removal of bleed. Just a nice thing we can activate if we get bleed. I don't know if it's really going to help or not, because you can remove or you get immunity to bleed, but it doesn't remove the bleed. So basically, if you have an 8-second bleed, you get immunity for a second, and then the bleed starts hurting you again for the rest of the 7 seconds. I think it's kind of stupid that it doesn't remove bleed. This is kind of a garbage change. They already made it so we only get to be immune for 1 second. To make it so we can't remove bleeds is really kind of rough and just is going to decimate builds that don't have fizz reduction. Luckily, we have some fizz reduction from our endurance charges and Immortal Call. We can still survive bleeds, but I imagine for most builds, bleeds are just, they feel terrible now, because you can't actually remove the bleeds. I think that's stupid. Granite Flask, we're using this right now, which is with an attack speed, charge recovery. This doesn't matter too much. I've just thrown a few alteration orbs and just was like, okay, that's useful, I'll keep it there. Eventually, I think we want to go to our roomies, especially when we get our upgraded Iron Fortress, because we're going to start stacking a lot of block, and roomies will help us get to block cap, which will feel really safe in mapping. And then last but not least, we have a Quicksilver Flask. Since Adrenaline sucks, I would recommend going for increased armor and duration. That way, while we are mapping, we pop our Quicksilver, and it's some additional armor there. You see we went all the way to 34,000? Wow, I need to get more increased armor stats, because that was only 60% increased armor, and that's giving us 10k armor. That's huge. I didn't even realize we were getting that much from that stat, so that probably means we need more increased armor on our tree itself. And talking of the tree, let's go to the Ascendancy. A big change we made, and this is what I was debating with doing, but I'm glad I did, and that's when going for Unyielding. Unyielding gives a ton of area of effect. The percent damage doesn't really help us, but the Endurance Charge on stun is great. It synergizes well with Immortal Call, and the area of effect we get is a lot. We get 6% times 7 Endurance Charges, which is 40%, 42% AoE, and then we also get 70% stun duration plus another 20% stun duration. That's 90% stun duration. Multiply that by the base duration of 3,500 milliseconds, and it ends up making our Boneshatter, wherever I have it, end up having quite a bit better area of effect, because the area of effect is based on the stun we inflict on the enemies. You'll see while we're mapping that the AoE of our Boneshatter is looking a lot better these days. Another thing I did is I bought a level 21 Boneshatter. I think this is something you should prioritize, at least getting up to a level 20. 21 is also a nice upgrade. It gives an extra melee strike range, and it gives a lot of extra added flat fizz. I think this is huge for pillar builds. Getting this flat fizz is a big upgrade to make, so if you can get a level 21 Boneshatter, I would recommend it. Last but not least, we got a 5-link, and I added increased crit support. I don't know if that's the best support to use. There might be some better supports, but that's just the one I went with, because I wanted to have a little bit more consistent crits. Okay. Whew, that was a mouthful. I want to showcase, this is going to be the first Veritania we've gotten. We've just started the Atlas. Here's what the Atlas thing looks like. It gives some mods to Veritania to make her more deadly, some dodge unlucky, some other stuff that don't matter, and we're just really pretty early on in the Atlas, so that's what the difficulty of the map we're running. It's not super difficult, but we are going to do it anyways, because that's just where we are, and that's what we can showcase doing. Pretty much right now the playstyle is run 2 packs and then just 1 tap, and hopefully not miss things. You'll see we're already at 50 rage. That's because the Warlord's Mark, and then we'll stay at that amount because we'll keep generating the rage whenever we stun a rare pack that we put Warlord's Mark onto, and we will also oh, what's the word? We will also, whenever we attack enemies, if we keep attacking enemies, we won't be losing rage. I'm going to go ahead and showcase doing a juiced up one of these, because I think it's important to showcase that we can handle a decent amount of monsters and a decent amount of things jumping on us, and it's no big deal. So I'm going to try to get as much stuff here as we can. That way we can show a pretty juiced one. And then that. So obviously we've picked up a bunch of different things that have a bunch of different dangerous mods, and we should still be pretty safe to rock and roll here. It shouldn't be something we'd be in too much danger. While we're doing this, I like to proc Immortal Call quite a bit. Just as I'm going through, whenever it comes off cooldown, I just throw Immortal Call on, because it's some huge damage reduction. And it just makes, even though there's probably a lot of dangerous mods in this thing, from all the things we picked up in our Dynamite, we're still pretty safe while doing it. So that's the main change here. And then we're going to spend 9 hours clicking these chests, because that's the game we play now, is the chest clicking game, and the pickup currency from chest clicking game. I think this is too many things to click. I don't know. I don't like how many clicks there are in this. So hopefully we can get some reduction in clicks. It would be nice, but I don't know. I don't know what the likelihood of that is. So I'm gonna pretty much just zerg straight to the boss, just going for 1 taps on the bigger packs, and then we can showcase doing Veritania, and I guess we're gonna fight Doedre at the end here. There's an immune pack. The immunity just came off, so we can still slap it. Ooh, Scour, I like that. Spider Lake, I don't think I've done that map, but take that. Obviously, This isn't an A tier clear speed. Given it's a strike skill, that is definitely putting us behind what we would be able to do with other skills. But I think it still does decently. With the AoE, it feels fine. With the extra Ancestral Calls, it's not the worst thing ever. Definitely not the best, but I think it competes and does well enough, is how I would put it. I think that entire time while mapping, I forgot to put the, I forgot to use Blood Rage, I think. So I just used Blood Rage at the end there, but I didn't have Endurance or Frenzy Charges while mapping. So that was a little bit of a mistake. Obviously, this is a low tier for Veritania. She's not going to do a ton of damage, but we can still face tank. I think this will start to be not as face tankable with red tier Veritania, but we'll see. I'll keep testing stuff like this. We'll keep trying to increase the damage, keep leveling it up, keep min-maxing it. Obviously, we're on a 5 link. We're not perfectly min-max. We don't have perfectly min-max gear, but I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're in a decent state. It's pretty relaxed gameplay. You run around, you're safe, you get to swat things. I think I like it. It's a beefy jug. It's consistent, and I think it's done so well so far. And I'm gonna keep upgrading it, keep updating you guys on the build. Anyways, that's the update. Hope you guys like it. There will be a POB below and my character link to my character profile, so you can see exactly where I am, what I'm doing, and you can basically follow along and whatnot. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching the video. You guys have an excellent rest of your day. Peace out.